It's alright. You can go online and watch us have a wine tasting.
Yeah.
Yeah. See you, mate.
See you, Doug. There we go. Okay, I'll come over, sorry, Dan.
Come over.
I've managed to pull it
Oh, you've managed to totally.
Rightio. Well, we'll start that again, shall we?
Might as well.
Yeah, well.
We were so damn organised.
We were organised, unfortunately, we decided to live stream on the wrong platform, so we've had to change. Thank you all for tuning in today, though. Look, Pat really wanted to have a look at a sweet wine or a dessert wine, and unless we wanted to face a whole bunch of Sauternes, Barsacs, VDNs, and Botrytis Semillons and other styles of sweet wines, I thought it'd be better to put them into context. So we put them to a dinner party context, which I think is pretty interesting to go through. So I've had a lot of consumers over the time come to me and say, "Oh, I'm hosting a dinner party, and I'm not really sure what to put with what." But the general setup for a dinner party. I'm sure you've all hosted dinner parties or been to dinner parties or or have seen dinner parties on TV or something. Essentially, you're starting off with something that's what's called an aperitif to start with, and that's something to allow your juices to get flowing, ready for the food. Because food, your salivary glands to kick over. So essentially, what it is you are looking to create the gastronomic experience by getting your cheeks watering, to have people wanting the food and presenting something pretty in front of them. So we're going to go through a standard dinner party setup, starting with just some antipasti or finger food to start with, going on to an entree sort of style, and then from there going into a main, and finally with a dessert. So the general opener that you see is a lot of time bubbles. So we've selected the Bird in Hand Sparkling Pinot Noir. So Sparkling Pinot Noir, yeah, that's the one. Okay, quickly, Dan is not supposed to open it that way.
I don't care.
It's hard to find a sparkling.
It is hard to find a sparkling.
It doesn't go pop.
I was just not expecting it to ricochet and smash those glasses that are hanging high there. So
That's the only reason I bought Passion Pop as a kid.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I have Passion Pop cat fights.
Yeah.
If you're going to open sparkling wine at a dinner party, you can do it that way, and it's very thing. And then when you take the person to hospital that you shot in the eye, that'll go down rather poorly. Always remember, everything is under pressure in a champagne bottle. So carbonation is sitting there. It's trying to push that cork out. Whenever you're taking the cage off it, leave your hand on top of it at all times. Otherwise, and this has happened to me more than one occasion, I've been standing there, yes sir, I've taken the cage off, and before I've got my hand to the top of it, it's just shot off. And
By itself.
yeah, the pressure in these things is quite high. So always, and if you are serving at a table, it's always best to have the bottle on the table with that over the top.
May I swap that salt?
Oh, yes, actually,
certainly.
probably
We're
done.
done. We're done with it.
No,
Thank
that's
you.
alright. Oh, you don't need this here?
No, we've got more tomato. We will swap, thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe
Yeah.
there.
Just in case.
So you might notice I'm pouring this wine. Sparkling.
Mine's up here, bro.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'll go back to that.
Okay.
There we go.
There we are. It looks like we are here for the afternoon then.
We are.
Alrighty.
We've got a feast.
We actually
Yeah.
do have a feast. My
Ready
wife has
dinner.
been berating me saying that what am I making for dinner tonight? And I said, I don't know. I won't get home until later. And I've got this look on her face that said, you are making something for dinner. And I went, okay, I shall work it out.
Leftovers.
Leftovers.
We've had dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whenever you're looking to match wines to food, or actually really you should be looking at your food, because it's much more complex to make food than it is to buy wine, let's face it. So what I suggest is that with the opening of this, to get your cheeks watering, something with a very high acidity, which sparkling has.
Bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
it's nice they've left a bit of blush in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. As it's a sparkling Pinot Noir, they've actually taken the grapes. The grape juice comes off as clear, even though it's a red grape. But they've left it sit on skins for a little bit longer, just to give a little bit of a blush to it. So it's more of a rosé, sparkling rosé style. But
Is that more for just like aesthetics, or is it?
it just happens to be part of the.
Yeah.
It's not actually they've intentionally done
Yeah.
this. It's probably generally that they've gone, put it on there, left it sit for a while, and then they've racked it off and gone, it's blush.
You see why this sells well. This is really good.
It's
Yeah.
Really nice.
You might notice that it's a brut, so it is less than 6 grams of residual sugar.
It's nice.
When you put it over your tongue, though, you're getting a little bit of that red fruits coming into it. But so what would you do with this kind of thing? Well, antipasti is soft cheeses, olives, some hard cheeses. Jerusalem artichokes are really good as an antipasti. French onion dip, it's also classic as well. So yeah,
Champagne.
for champagne, yeah. In fact, champagne, if you listen to the advertising for the Champagne region, champagne goes with every single part of the meal because they're trying to sell you as much champagne as possible. I have done full dinners with nothing but champagne, and whilst it is really good because the acidity makes your cheeks water, and therefore you're eating, it's much more to do with the level of intensity of flavour in the food. So I scrolled down a quick 8 rules. Actually, when I say I scrolled them down, I kind of cut and pasted them. So there are essentially 8 rules that go through for food matching with wine. 1, try to keep the food and wine to a similar weight. And what that means is, if you're having fish, like a light fish, go for a lighter styled wine. If you're going for a robust flavour, go for a more robust wine. Like, for example, have a think of the classics you might have heard. So Riesling going particularly well with what's it called? Scallops and pea puree. Especially if you use the Riesling of the bottle to actually add the sauce. So the sauce should match the wine as well. So if you're doing a white wine sauce with something, a white wine, preferably the white wine you used, is the wine to use with that. It always, and this is a bit of snobbery, and I'm really sorry that it is a bit of snobbery, but any wine you cook with, you should also be willing to drink. If you want to cook with a cheap wine to make something, you should be matching that to the wine you drink. So, you know, and it is a bit of snobbery on my part because I've had so many people come in, I just want to do some cooking wine. And cooking wine is probably one of the worst misnomers I've ever heard, because so many times you've eaten something and you've gone, it was good, but the sauce let it down, or there was some flavour in the back I didn't enjoy, and that came from the wine, especially if you don't cook your wine out first. So try and keep the food and wine in a similar weight. This is the first rule. Okay, match flavour, intensity and character. So in this particular case, we're looking at camembert, cheddar, water crackers, and tomato. Just as a little antipasti platter to start with.
That's a Gouda.
That's a Gouda, sorry, Gouda, right?
I wanted something without too much flavour, so
Yeah.
it didn't overpower the...
Exactly. So again, this is what we're looking at, is we are taking a Gouda, which is not a very strong flavoured cheese, to match it.
Hey, Duck's watching. G'day, Duck.
Hey, Duck. To the wine. Otherwise, if you have too robust a flavour running into your food, your wine needs to match it. If it's too subtle, and a thing like a Surly wine from Loire, which is very, very light, and is really quite, or a Picpoul or something like that, is very, very light, very crisp. If you haven't got something that's light and crisp to go with it, it can overpower it.
Yeah.
And therefore you basically wasted your money on wine.
Those tomatoes are stunning.
That's excellent.
Oh.
These are local grown down.
Oh, by the way, the tomatoes we've got are sourced locally from Richard Mohan down in Conda. Yeah. heirloom tomatoes, phenomenal.
Actual flavour.
Yum. Think about acidity. Again, we're in the early parts of a dinner party. We don't want to hit you with a big, heavy style wine, so that therefore you don't feel like you're chewing through a wine, and therefore you don't feel like eating afterwards. You want something light, bright, vibrant, something that cleans your palate. And my mouth is watering, like just drenching with saliva, wanting to eat more, and that's because of the wine. Beware of mixing salt and tannin. So heavy salted stuff going with heavy tannin things. So tannin is the colour that brings into red wine. It's also the drying component that makes your cheeks water, and actually not cheeks water. Sorry, it makes your mouth go quite dry. So if you actually have a heavy salted product with tannin, it's going to get bitter, and you're not going to enjoy it quite as much. So a heavily salted dish won't work really well with it. So you can soften tannins with richer and heavier food, because tannins, one of the best things about them is they strip the tongue clean. And I've used this analogy before. If you've had a steak, like an outstanding steak, the first bite is just, melt in the mouth, beautiful. And then you continue to eat it. By about the fourth or fifth mouthful, you might as well just chew for the fun of it. You're really not getting any more flavour coming into it. This is where, if you had a wine with it, like particularly a red, you would be sitting there going,
you keep stripping your mouth.
and keep stripping the tongue of all the proteins that are clogging your receptors, and therefore you get to continue eating. Try to serve a wine with that's at least as sweet as the food. So this wine here is less than 6 grams of residual sugar, so therefore can still stand up to tomatoes.
The salt as well.
The salt and sugar always does really well, but the tomatoes themselves are a little bit sweet.
Yeah.
If this wine had no sugar or no sweetness to it, I reckon it would be a very difficult proposition to continue to drink it and actually get any sort of flavour. And yet, every time we drink this, we're still picking up flavours. We're still getting that hit of flavour into it.
Really light strawberry.
Yeah, it's a really nice strawberry red fruit. It's
Really nice.
beautiful. Spicy foods. Now, this one is always a bugbear. So, when I first got into wine, it was always red wine with red meat, white wine with white meats, blah, blah, blah. It's actually not quite true, but we'll talk about that later. But curries and spicy Asian food are always really difficult to match wine with.
You'd want the acidity to kind of take off the spice, or?
Well, the thing is, the spice doesn't sit in, it sits on the tongue, on the sides of your palate. So salt, sweet, sour, umami, and
Bitter?
bitter, I think. No, it's not bitter. Savoury.
Savoury, yeah.
They're the 5 flavours of food. And in Asian cooking, it's a balance of those. In Indian cooking, it's not about the balance of those. It's actually, the curry is the heavy protein with a high amount of spice to it, like a really highly spiced area. Everything around that is to either mitigate spice or enhance spice. So if you like it a little hotter, you'll have some lime pickle. If you like it a little less hot, you have the yogurt raita.
Yeah.
If you like it if you like it hotter again, then you can add if you want it more acidic, you want to add salsa, which is a tomato, onion chopped up with lime vinegar. If you wanted to have it with a hotter style again, then you've got hot chilies on the side to add. And so what wine goes with that, considering you're making up the flavour profile of your food as you're sitting at the table. And what actually works really well with that is something that's got either a spicy wine itself, so something that's got spice as well, but rarely will I find a wine that is as spicy as the food I'm eating. So it'll be subsumed quite regularly by the food. So I find something that can contrast with that being the fruitiness of a wine. So something that's got massive amounts of fruit to it, not sweetness, but fruit to it, that will actually allow you to taste the wine, eat the food, and it'll play off each other.
From Clown
always
Red,
Yeah.
Juby.
Yeah, big juby fruity top.
What about beer with curry? 'Cause
Beer
that's
and
what
curry
you
is
do
a
in,
classic.
that's what you do in England.
Yep.
You just you go for a curry, you have a pint.
So beer and curry is a classic because the acidity and bitterness of beer is the thing that actually cleans the tongue for that
Yeah.
one. It's actually what particular, I think the lagers that they drink over there for it usually make a hot curry. It cools it slightly, so it's like sort of the Rachel without the milkiness. But the bitterness also cuts right through. So you're looking at a good. So you've got this big, heavy, sweet, rich flavour over your tongue, and you put something so bitter over the top of it. But it's not tannin bitter because tannins will actually become a little bit cloying, a little bit bitter. Like the bitters will become really, really bitter. So I find that's the best one. Pairing the sauce, and this is the one that I have a lot of people that come to me and I said, "What are you cooking?" And they say, "I'm doing pork." And I say, "Well, that's nice, but what sort of pork are you having?" And they'll go, "Oh, pork with," and they'll list off a whole bunch of ingredients. And what I find out is afterwards that they've actually made a sauce with it. And the most flavourful part of the meal is going to be the sauce, not the pork. So whilst classic pork is Pinot. It's Pinot Noir with pork. It's a classic.
Yeah.
Duck and Pinot go together as well, but the sauce is the most important part. And if you're having a big, heavy apple gravy with your pork, you might as well just not bother with the Pinot.
Yeah.
Did you have a nice big woody oaky shard?
Yeah, that would work.
With a buttery.
Yep, that would work really nicely. You could also have a myriad of other heavier reds to go with it because you've got such a heavy thing. But you could also, play off the fact of the malic acid in Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Would go really well with the apples.
That would work nice.
Yeah. So yes, that's where we're sort of going with that. So, what do you think, guys? Just quickly run us through what you.
Oh, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Real light strawberry sort of flavours to it. But dry, not sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did prefer that. Like, I've had some of the other I haven't had too many sparklings as of yet, and I did prefer being.
But even to look at really fine bubbles.
Yeah.
Really lively but very fine bubbles.
I noticed, I don't know, I'm looking too hard, but the bubbles were forming shapes in the glass. Like mine were going into triangles. I thought yours was going into.
That's probably to do with the glass itself.
Yeah. I don't know.
But I'm quite happy to try that. Let's just try that again.
There's what?
It's very important that you try and retry things over and over and over again.
It's training.
It's training.
I need training and pouring apparently.
I just love that nose.
Yeah.
Alright, I don't get trying.
No, I'm not getting triangles.
Oh no, it takes.
But I'm getting a consistent bubble coming into it. So that, when we talk about a bubble, we actually more talk what's called a bead.
Big.
So, here's some interesting terms for you. The CO2 that's coming out of the wine right now in the form of bubbles, you call it a bead. When you put that over your tongue, and you can take it,
Dirk's
Montepulciano di Abruzzo and Rogan Josh. Yep. Big fruit sort of flavours running into those dark. Oh, hello, how are you?
Good.
You're very red today.
You know that pink and the broom.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
I just thought I should come and say hello in case you sort of just see this pink head behind the bar.
No, it's-
So, enjoy your night.
I forgot what I was saying now. Oh, Dirk,
We're
yeah.
talking
So,
about Rogan Josh.
yeah.
Is
So,
that,
Rogan Josh is actually a paprika-based curry.
doesn't he work in town, Rogan Josh?
No.
Oh no! Wow.
Anyway, so Rogan Josh is a paprika-based curry, which is actually really funny because paprika is not one of those spices that you ever really sort of associate with Indian cooking, but this is majorly in it.
Well, isn't there 5 spices of Indian? Like, I remember my friend made me a curry and he just picked out 5 things. Like, you can make every Indian curry out of these 5 spices, just what levels you mix them in.
Yep.
We're back.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mix them in different quantities. Like, one will be more for spice, one will be more for, like, so-and-so flavour, and, you literally just kind of add to make what you want to taste. I can't remember what all of them are, but I remember paprika was one, garam masala, and
Garam masala is actually a blend of several spices.
Oh,
together.
yeah.
It was bay leaves and Indian.
Oh, it's Bailey's in anything. Like I tried Bailey's in like potatoes.
Really?
It's fancy.
So
Fancy.
it's fancy.
This is fancy.
Stunning.
Yeah.
And particularly with the, like, I always find soft cheeses and champagnes or sparkles go really well because again, oily, sits on the tongue,
The fats.
the bubbles, and the acidity just cuts straight through it. Really, really excellent.
Everyone gets
So-
excited about cheese as well and champagne.
Yeah.
That's
So
like
when you have
Shortbread champagne for me. You know.
so when you do a dinner party, like
Yep.
is it how long would you sit on like entrees until like what do you call antipasties?
Yeah, so antipasto. So we basically just, you put it out there and then people drink it. Generally, the timing that we have is once the bottle's gone,
Yeah.
we move on to the next course.
Yeah.
If we have several bottles with a course, then by the time all the bottles are gone, we move on to the next course.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, we'll move on to the next course. So food by Dan today.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh,
I went all out.
oh we are, yes.
Now I can eat all this.
There we go. So, I like to go on to a light but going into a heavier style of wine. So you want to get something that transitions from the lighter style of wine. It's like doing a wine tasting. You want things to go from a lighter style to a heavier style, a drier style to a sweeter style. And so we've chosen La Villa Ferme Rosé. And the reason I chose this is because most of the dishes that I look at for an entree dish pair beautifully with a rosé. Things like pork roulade, salmon. Salmon's a classic with rosé. Mushroom risotto with cream sauce. That's a really good one too. Or chicken salad. So rosé. Now rosé you can get a blend from anywhere from really sweet to really dry. Really sweet being something like a Portuguese Mateus, or really dry going all the way to that Côte de Provence sort of style. This one here is a French from Languedoc region. It's going to have a little bit more, it's a Grenache based rosé. It's going to have a little bit of fruit to it. It'll have a little bit of Turkish delight character. So it's still bright and pretty and vibrant. It still has a good whack of acidity into it as well. It still is crisp in the finish, but it'll pair quite nicely with those lighter style meats, fish dishes, anything that's got a bit of heaviness to it, moving into your main courses. So this is a great transitional wine. Then, you know, stick your nose and you get rose water from Turkish Delight. You put it over your tongue. You're not getting any sweetness at all. It's still, it's dry, it's fresh, it's bright. You're still getting a little bit of Turkish Delight, hints of like red cherries, and then you're going into, and we're just going to go for a really simple entree. It's a short one, a simple entree, potato and salt with capsicum.
And plenty of butter. And buttery. Buttery should work well, right?
So now you've got some oilers of butter over your tongue, a little bit of spice from the capsicum that's in it. Is it capsicum or potato? Oh, or tomato.
That's tomato.
Tomato. And then you go,
So should have a little bit of sweetness out of tomato, wouldn't it?
yep. The sweetness of the wine is actually marrying off to the residual sweetness in there. Probably had 2 grams residual sugar in that. It's not fully fermented dry, but it's,
It clears the butter straight off your palate.
yep, straight off the palate.
Strips it completely.
And you're sitting there with, like, my mouth is still watering, which is good because gastronomically, when it comes to your eating, it's one of the biggest triggers is looking at the food. You look at a well-presented meal, you salivate. When you drink the wine and it's heightening the salivation, you're getting really hungry. You're looking really, oh, this is really good. And this is one of the big reasons that when you put a dinner party, you have to structure it. If we'd had a big Shiraz with that then, that's pretty much it. It's game over. You can't, you're going from there onto the next course, which is like a heavy meat dish.
Well, just going from a sparkling straight to a Shiraz would be
It's
like,
jarring.
That was more jarring than I was expecting. Like just
this one?
just so quickly going from bubbles to this.
Yep.
But going straight to a Shiraz would
would
be
be really jarring.
yeah.
Couple of things you got to realise when it comes to matching wines as well is it depends what you're trying to do, complementing or contrasting. Some wines benefit from the complementing of complementing of food. Sorry, so you're complementing those flavours that you're in the food. Other times, contrasting is really good. So when we were talking about the Indian curry and beer, that's a contrast.
Yeah.
A big contrast. But with wine, because you've got a myriad of flavours running into it, you can also complement the flavour intensity, but contrast it with fruit rather than savoury. You can then also marry off the acidity in wine to the lighter, oilier characters that you have in food. So it's kind of, you can complement and contrast at the same time with wine. However, some wines just really don't work. High sweet dishes with tannin. Sugar makes tannin look really astringent and bitter.
Because it's so opposite.
Because it is so opposite. It is very opposite and really quite jarring. The only times that it ever sort of works really, really well is when you have for example, let's say a chocolate dessert, but not a really sweet chocolate dessert. Say a chocolate fondant with not a really sweet ganache in there, like a chocolate ganache, but quite a 70% cocoa ganache. You're getting a lot less sugar into it, and you can actually do a Cabernet with it, and it's a brilliant match. Because you've got those chocolatey characters of the Cabernet marrying off to the chocolatey characters in the wine itself.
I actually get like a little bit. I don't know. It tastes like kind of like the piece of the watermelon right before the rind.
Yep.
Like,
You're trying to get us drunk.
I don't know what the technical term of that is.
That maybe.
Oh, you're spilling
Oh,
milk.
we actually have our
Our
girl Friday, Laura, doing such a really good job organising the food in the background. Dan's put it all together, and Laura's the one bringing it all out for
Heat
us.
it up for us.
Yeah.
You did all the hard work. I'm just eating it.
I just like the fact that we call this hard work.
Yeah.
That's my idea of
I like the irony of like saying it's like, oh, I gotta go into work today. Like,
yeah. I'm going to go to work.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
What do you do there?
Eat,
drink,
drink.
be merry.
Yeah, that's good. Actually, I was telling you last night that one of my friends runs a very, what's the word for it? A very corporate retail store, and he has to spend most of his time in store. He does about the same amount of hours that I do, but at no point can he go out and have a few drinks with the staff, or because they've got a really set policy. Again, you cannot do this and you can't do this.
Fraternising.
Yeah, well, not so much fraternising, but it's really like, he goes, I would like it if we can go out and sort of bond as a team. Unfortunately, over the years, that company has had too many people that have bonded as a team and
too hard.
badly ended that one. So they make it a policy. So he sees things like this with us sitting here, and he actually sends me really mean texts.
Jealous.
Oh, he's horribly jealous.
And I think it's like fundamental to a well-working team. Like you can't just have like everyone doing their own thing and then if you actually have things like this,
It's educational.
yeah,
Well,
especially for product sales and like being able to help customers and
Well, I always thought this was drier than what it actually is.
yeah, I gotta admit like
this is a very dry rosé.
the last time I had
It's
this,
not as dry as I
I
thought it was.
thought it was a bit more sweeter than it is. I don't know if it's a different vintage or
no, the last one was a little sweeter, like it was in more texture-like character.
yeah.
But I think that's a vintage
Yeah.
thing.
It's actually really pleasant.
Nice and light.
Actually, I do recommend this wine quite a lot to a lot of the guys that come in and say, "Oh, I'm having pork," and as long as they're not having pork with a Big Apple sauce or anything like that, I'll actually suggest this. Particularly about pork roulade. Great, excellent.
Roulade.
What's roulade?
You get a pork loin, you roll it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
In what?
You can put fruit into it.
We
In
used to-
fact, one of the ones that I liked was actually it was literally a pork loin rolled, and it was with dried fruit inside. And holy wow, I sat there going, this is going to be dodgy as hell because dried fruit inside cooked pork. This is going to end so poorly. And it was amazing.
We used to do it like, because when I was doing butchering, we used to do boned out, especially pork and lamb.
Yep.
You bone out the loin, and then you still keep a lot of the fat on.
Okay.
And then you roll. We had different set like kind of recipes they used for pork or lamb. It was like a stuffing kind. Wasn't really like whole fruits or anything like that, but you'd roll it up and then you'd bake it in. Cook it in that.
Yep.
It was beautiful. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then you cut it straight up into little steaks and kind of like little Wellington kind of things.
Oh yeah. Look, one of the things that I had to plan a vegan dinner party, and I actually had to go and call a guy who is a vegan because I was coming up with all these ideas and realising that they're not vegan.
All the dairy.
There's dairy,
Honey.
there's honey, and I'm like, oh, what do I do? So I called Andrew.
Yeah.
I said, mate, I've got a problem. I need to know what a vegan dinner party would look like. And he put together an amazing,
Oh yeah.
absolutely stunning, but it was really oily.
Okay.
Everything was all coconut oil.
Oh, yeah.
They supplemented butter with things like coconut, and it was by the end of it, I'm looking and going, oh, this is really, really oily. So all the wines that I had to select for it had to be really high acidity to get cut through the oil, or tannins to strip the palate. And so they actually had a portobello mushroom dish, but it was like a beef stew, basically. It was that heavy. All about the mushrooms.
Yeah.
And all the mushroom component, and they put a big heavy sauce to it as well. And so that's at that point they were looking for something a heavier style. But most of the vegan dishes that I was looking at, I was like going for lighter reds or lighter style wines. And he said, no, whack a Cabernet with this. And I said, okay, right, yeah. So I whacked a Cabernet with it, and they came back and said, oh, it was amazing, it was great, perfect. And I was like, oh, thank God for that. So yes, I actually get questions like, oh, didn't you used to be a chef? I said, no, I just eat a lot.
Watch a lot of cooking shows.
Yeah. My wife watches MasterChef and all MKR and the rest of it, and I'll just sit in the background and I'll taunt her and tease her, but I'm learning stuff all the time.
I may sound like Gordon Ramsay, but I don't have to.
Yes, no, a lot of swearing is good.
Yeah.
Porchetta, pork belly and grenache. Yeah, that's a good classic mash. Actually, the fun part for me is if you're looking for, when we're talking about Pinot Noir now, so pork and Pinot Noir, but some people don't like the earthiness and the lightness of the Pinot Noir, and at that point you can literally translate it to Grenache, because it is a Shiraz drinker's Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
And it is excellent. And we actually did a blind tasting, Central Otago Pinot Noir up against light Victorian and Victorian and West Australian Grenache. And the similarities, like you could tell which one's which, but the similarities were so, oh wow, I can see how that works together. And it became really an intriguing basis for stuff. One of my favourite wines that you will never see now was actually put out by Rosemount, but it doesn't come out, not the Rosemount Diamond label, but the Rosemount, I think it was called the Winemaker series or the Wine Project series or something like that. It was what's called a GAG, and it was Grenache Aglianico Gorillo. Not Gorillo. Red grape beginning with G.
Sure.
No, not Aglianico.
I don't even know how to pronounce it. I knew it was good.
Graciano. So a Grenache, Aglianico and Graciano. And it was dry and spicy. It was very like that Sagrantino that you had in the Philip Cat in Macau. Yeah, it was like that. So dry but spicy as hell.
You had to have another sip of it just to see how dry it was.
Suck those cheeks in.
Did that really do that? Another sip of it's like, yep, that's crazy.
So and that was with an Asian town. At one point, Exo Cellars down at not Moffat Beach. What's it called? Perugian Beach. Exo Cellars on the coast.
Far on holidays.
Their chef, who was down there with me at the time, tried this and went, this would match beautifully with the food that I make. and he ordered it and got it in there, and it was an amazing match.
Dirk just got the Graciano.
The Graciano?
Yeah.
Oh, he did pick up the Graciano. Yeah. Yeah, good call. Yeah, it was definitely a good call. So, now, we're going to move on to mains. Actually, no, hold on. We still have wine in the glass, so we can't move on to mains, so we finish wine in the glass.
You need to eat more potatoes.
This is actually,
Yeah.
I think it goes really well with it.
It
Yeah,
does.
the potato.
But you
And,
would you have like what would you do, like salmon? What kind of like risotto? What kind of like what else would go with it?
So, hot smoked salmon works really well with this.
Because we've got the potatoes, but we haven't got the meat at the moment.
Risotto works really well. Mushroom risotto, particularly good. As long as you're not putting any sort of major
Heavy meats.
or heavy flavours into it.
Yeah.
You want to try and keep, and honestly, you want to keep your entree a little lighter.
What about soup? Can you do a soup?
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. Okay.
This is like drinking on top of drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But chicken soups, like a chicken soup with this would go quite
It's really
nicely.
light.
Oh,
Yeah.
Especially as it's got a bit of, if it had a bit of
Mushroom
spice to it.
consomme.
Oh, mushroom yeah.
That was so good.
The best entree Dan and I have ever had was a mushroom consomme.
Pomodoro's actually.
Yeah, pomodoro's in it.
So
We did it for a whiskey dinner,
They do solid food there.
and it was
so
just this beautiful little cup, and it was just mushroom consomme, and we picked it up. We were like whiskey and consomme, and I looked at Dan. Dad's like, oh no. Oh wow.
Wow.
And we're just doing this, and they said
Consomme.
Yeah.
You mean soup?
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
that's
no.
not soup. That
Yeah.
is
Really
something
rich or yeah?
It's all mushroom.
And you're like dipping bread with it and stuff like that, or
No,
you
It's,
just
it's
have
a
it by itself.
straight little. It's like
Straight
a little
little,
shot.
yeah.
Oh
It's
really?
only a
Consomme,
tiny little
yeah.
syrup,
Oh, wow.
And it's all mushroom.
That's super fancy.
It's
Yeah.
really
It
good.
was just blended up mushrooms or something. Or just...
It's like they've been boiled down.
Yeah, they just let
boiled
mushrooms
down,
cook
boiled
and
down.
With like
Cool.
butter and
and then
Yeah.
draw that off, and then you have it there.
No, that sounds amazing.
Oh, it's just absolutely stunning.
They still do that there? Or?
Yeah.
No, it's just for that one-off dinner. I suggest they put it on.
You actually don't stealing that because you're like, I want some of that.
So we've
What are you
decided to go
gonna
for
say?
something simple but fairly
Classic.
classic sort of style. We've decided to go with. Oh, my wife is so going to hate me. We've decided. Dan, you made it.
You had no idea what was happening.
No.
It's a chili bean mix. Basically just with guacamole and sour cream.
Okay.
Simple.
Yep.
Vicky's watching.
Vicky's watching.
Oh, thank you, Vicky. Nice to see you. So we're going on to
Wish
Dandelion.
you were here.
McLaren Bell Shiraz. And the reason we're doing this is we've chosen this particular wine because it would match off. Do you want to pass it to
those
Laura?
potatoes are awesome, by the way.
They're
Good job.
great. They're really good.
It just popped into my head. I went,
Loads of seasoning.
Johnny McCormick used to do it in the bar all the time.
Oh, he did, yeah.
Every Friday munchies would be slow cooked tatties in the
Yeah.
pizza oven,
Yeah.
just with salt and butter.
Yeah.
You
The
just
best.
put them on the bar, we all money out on potatoes.
Yeah.
It's really good.
So we're looking at McLaren Bell Shiraz, which is going to be, and I'm going to use just general terms here, more fruit driven. The tannins will be softer, rounder, and easier. The spiciness of the food we're about to have here, the fruit of this will easily match to it.
Yeah.
The tannins won't be astringent because the tannins aren't quite as big as they would be for, say, a Coonawarra Cabernet or a Margaret River Cabernet.
It's
But-
not overly spicy either. I tried it earlier. It's
Okay.
not hot.
Not a hot for the spice,
Chili,
yeah.
so- Yeah, it's pretty easy going.
Mine's
Yeah.
spicy.
Oh, yum. This is lots of, so, dandelion, lots of blue fruits,
really good.
got that really sort of bitter chocolate finish to it. It's actually quite complex. It's got some lovely star anise. It's got a bit of olive tapenade. It's got a whole range of other coffees and slightly toffee notes to it. A bit of burnt caramel in there as well. Beautiful wine. Really, really good, easy drinking style of McLaren Bell Shiraz.
Well, it's really good. It's just the next step up from that rosé. Isn't it?
Yeah.
It just keeps.
And again,
Building.
we're trying to build your palate. We're not trying to smash your palate. If we'd gone straight from the sparkling to this, again, you'd be smashed in the face with flavour. You'd be really hard to go, where do I go from here? So again, with your dinner parties, you want to build up the intensity of flavours till you get to a culmination of flavours, which should be the ending. So, and we're going to have a...
Here we go.
This is absolutely amazing. I love dandelion. Like,
Yep.
yeah, I haven't actually had the Shiraz before, but this is beautiful.
So, from the initial flavours of this, when I had lots of blue fruits, lots of other, as I said, all those complexity flavours. This, which is more of a tomato bean based dish, still has spice to it though. It does have a little spice to it. No, it does. It just naturally does. It actually means
taco spice.
yeah. But when you taste this now, the vibrancy of the blue fruit is reduced. You're still getting blue fruit, but you're not getting that really bright. Yeah, have a taste of your wine now. From what it was, that vibrancy has dissipated a little bit. The tannins though are still, they're not astringent, but they're still round. They're still stripping your tongue. So your initial flavour of this was, quite a lovely tomato, paprika, a little bit of nutmeg into it, and it is just like you could taste it. And it felt really, really good on the palate. You have this, and then you go back to another one, and the cheese, the oiliness on the cheese, is not overwhelming your taste buds. So when you go back to a second one, it's as vibrant as the first time.
Let me try.
So what about the oiliness of the sour cream and the avocado?
Yeah. This is the points where you do need tannin to cut through it, but you don't want over the top. Otherwise, it's going to turn astringent and bitter, and you'll be going back for the food more than the wine. So as wine needs to complement or contrast with wine now, because there's so many myriad of flavours, and you can do both at the same time in some cases. One of the wines that would not work with this would be something like a big heavy Mataro would probably struggle with this, because the tannin structure of Mataro with the fruit component, you get black fruit onto it. It's got a lovely meatiness to it, which means it would work brilliantly with a big slab of steak or something like that. But in this particular case, with the tomato bases, would be struggling a little bit. Chianti would work really well. Sangiovese would be beautiful with this.
Cab Sav would probably be a bit heavy.
Yeah, Cab Sav would be too heavy and too much tannin. Tempranillo or
Yeah.
nailed it.
But that's the original.
Yeah.
I was thinking the Sangiovese and the.
How about
Tempranillo.
Barbera? Would Barbera go with it?
We will try that in a moment.
We'll find that out.
Just to give you a heads up, we got given a 2011 Barbera to try. Missoni Barbera.
Yeah.
We're not trying to spruik Missoni here, by the way.
Yeah.
We just happen to have a really good relationship.
What's that neon light up there? Missoni.
But one of my wine reps who supports us quite heavily sent a bottle of Barbera, which is really annoying because if he's had this all along,
Yeah, where's he been on?
I'm going to be really pissed because I love Barbera. I love those styles of wine that I found in northern Italy, which I was just like, oh, this is awesome.
Probably found it in a shed. He's like,
He probably did. He probably found it down the back of his couch or something like that. I'll send this to him and see what they think of that. But as I said, like Dandelion, to give you a quick rundown through Dandelion, McLaren Vale for the most part, they do source fruit out of Adelaide Hills and out of Barossa. The winemaker is Elena Brooks, who won the 2014 Best Wine of Show in the Barossa for their Queen of Eden Valley. And I know this because I was one of the judges for that one. That's sort of Zar, her husband. I'm not sure if he's still a husband or not. I haven't actually caught up with him for ages.
Okay.
And you're never quite sure because I've made so many faux pas over the years. Hey, how's your husband going? Oh, we've divorced. Oh, really? Okay. I feel so bad now. But
is your
Zar,
wife coming? That's not my wife.
Zar was probably the most verbose, loud, the centre of attention type guy you're going to meet. And he is. He's a really funny guy. Like, he is really funny. But he's funny in the way that people like Frankie Boyle are funny. They're funny from a distance, but if you're if you happen to be inside that,
Frank Boyle.
if you're inside that circle, if you're the guy in the front row of Frankie Boyle, you may not be quite as funny as you think he is.
Well, you're going to get picked on.
Oh yes. And Zar does. He actually.
I think he said comedy, is it? Or? Yeah.
No. Well, Frankie Boyle's comedy, but Zar himself, he's such a big character, and he's very over the top and very. And some of the things he does, you actually sit there going, "Oh, I can't believe he just did that." But from a marketing point of view, fantastic.
Well, that's kind of would that be an image you want for like, especially if you're kind of whining and dining people, like
Absolutely.
you want to make an impact.
You want
like,
to make an impact.
You want to be remembered. Like
Yeah.
it's like, oh, remember that one place with that guy who was like.
Yeah.
ripping
And what
us?
did he say?
Yeah.
He said that again.
He told
wow.
that to the CEO of our business. Oh,
You've sort of got to know your
Yeah.
audience too. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
If
the
I
thing
say
is,
this, am I going to get
no, but
kicked out or?
he doesn't care. He just goes,
Love it.
this is how it is. If I turn up suddenly with a big fucking rant underneath this chat, that's probably why. It's because he's going, no, how dare you say that about me. But when I met him, he was so lovely and really generous and lovely guy. But his personality was just so big. And his wife, Elena, was such a good winemaker, but she wasn't over the top. She was very, I won't say humble, but she knew what she was doing, and she didn't say that she was the greatest. But she was such a lovely person, and
I suppose her
but this is
her
where we go-
product speak for herself, so she doesn't
really
have
does.
to.
But it was like a contrast. It is definitely a contrast. He's the marketing, she's
Yeah,
the winemaking.
absolutely.
But as I said, like I really enjoyed them both, and I have loved Dandelion since it was sold by Dan Gentle to us, who actually inherited the name Dandelion Dan. The problem is that he doesn't sell Dandelion anymore, but he's still called Dandelion Dan for us.
Stop.
I've always faced
That's not the greatest nickname for a bloke, but
No,
Dan.
Dandelion Dan.
Sorry, can we? I don't know if you've done this while I was away. Price points for all of them.
So price points for this, you're looking at $27 for the sparkling. This one is generally about $19, but we sell it for about $18.
it's pretty regularly on special.
Pretty on
Yeah.
special on off for
Very
15,
nice
15
stuff.
to 18 bucks. Dandelion, if you want to buy it online, I think it's about $27.99. We sell it for about $22.99, and occasionally we'll put it on special at 2 for $40 or something. And then we'll go on to the last one.
Yeah, sure.
But the thing is, though, I get so many clients come in and go, I don't know anything about wine, and I say, well, how much would you like to spend?
Yeah.
And they'll say, oh, I don't know, $30. And I can find them a myriad of things
Yeah.
between 20 to 25
Yeah.
dollars.
There's actually too much to
easy.
choose from.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
so much to choose from. It's like, what? And they really enjoy that. The fact that you can get a wine that over delivers. We've talked so many times,
Just said they'd get the spoon the other way around.
about how do we choose wines for the store. And literally the wine choices are put together by Dan and myself. And if Pat happens to be around or someone else, I'll get their opinion on it. And we try to find wines that, if I said, would you pay $25 for it? And they go, yeah. That's nice. Well, if it's worth $25 and it tastes like a $25 wine, okay, that's good. But if you go, that's a $50 wine, I'm paying $25 for it.
Yeah.
I want
Particularly
that
if it's
store.
a dinner party and you want to impress people.
And I
Don't
think
give that to Cody. He will eat the whole
Yeah,
damn
he will
thing.
eat the whole
Don't
thing.
eat
with I think especially with
It's
like
a potato and tomato.
different different demographics
kinda
and
get
stuff
combined,
like that,
you
they're
know
more
what that
impressed
is, so-
with.
Yeah.
Like if you sit there and it's like, oh, how's this wine? They're like, oh, that's brilliant, and you got like some more up class people, and then you tell them it's like, well, I got that wine that you guys compared to these other $100 wines for $20. They're more impressed with the fact that you save like $80 and they all paid $100.
Look,
And the amount of wines I haven't really tried too many like over $100 bottles. I don't think I have the palate for it.
I don't know you're about to.
Yeah.
So next month, and we'll just tell the people on the stream here, next month we will be doing a super premium tasting. Ooh. Super premium. So we're going to have like...
So you telling me even though all the bars are open up and there's no need for this super self-isolate, we're going to continue these?
Oh, we're going to continue these irrespective because this is a great way for me to end it Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah.
But we're going to do a face-to-face tasting of a super premium wine. It is going to be $50 a head. We are going to limit it to 10 clients, and we are going to be looking at some $200 bottles,
Hate it when you break the
some $150 bottles, some $120 bottles. So we're going to look at the creme de la creme of some of the wine industry.
Creme de la creme.
So I'm looking forward to that. But if you want in on that, you really have to come in and literally speak to Dan and myself, and we will we'll book you in. It will be in the early part of next month, probably it won't be a Tuesday night.
Can never be a
Never be a
Tuesday.
Tuesday night. It might have to be a Monday
Well, we
night.
can start early
Monday.
on Tuesday.
Oh, Jesus, that'll be hard. Might be a Monday night or something like that.
Or
Everyone
might-
hates Mondays,
Yeah.
so make it a good
Yeah.
day.
So-
Make it a day where we got a public holiday on Tuesday, or like
So we're drinking Monday.
Monday's not in.
I'll be drinking Tuesday. We'll be doing a wine
So
tasting
Wednesday. Yeah.
Yep, I hate my job.
and then Thursday I'll have my little home bar set up.
Oh yeah.
And we'll be up for drinks then.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
You'll
This
make
is so
the food
good,
for
by
that
the
one,
way.
Laura.
You've done
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be doing a dinner party for you guys soon, so it's good. I'm learning.
That's good. I can just walk down to your place. That's great. And seriously, these dishes put together well done, man. Excellent
you've done
work.
well.
Really delicious. Thank you.
It's funny because I changed my mind about 3 times about what I was doing.
Mm.
Oh, I'm going to do this. And I was halfway through IGA and went, oh, hang on. Let's
So you've done awesome.
I'm just
do
amazed
this, let's do that.
you managed to find a Mexican dish that didn't make me cry.
Yeah, perhaps.
It's very mild.
He's very
mild.
sensitive. He's a
Yeah.
sensitive
Yeah.
boy.
I can tell you a
Comes to
secret about
spice.
that, but I don't have to care.
Yeah.
What is
really
unlike
nice.
friggin' Gazoo? What is
I don't
Gazoo?
know. Dirk said sunshine,
Sunshine.
and then he said, I'm like friggin' Gazoo.
I don't know
What
what
are you
Gazoo.
talking about?
What is a Gazoo?
You're not supposed
Isn't that
to. You're not
interesting?
supposed to drink all of
Interesting.
those. Like
Yeah.
for each tasting, just a glass of each will do.
Ah, you sure?
I recommend it.
No, okay.
Yeah, if you still gotta go to work.
Well, you mean you're going back to work?
No.
So if you were actually going to put a dinner party on, the ones that I have written here for it: beef steak, beef cheeks, beef bourguignon, lamb racks, shanks, or if you're
Oh,
vegetarian,
shanks. Oh.
Anything real rich and dark.
anything big, heavy. You
Yeah.
want it. You want
I won't.
at this point you want the
I wasn't
entire
gonna cook
meal.
this dinner. Come on.
You want the meal
Oh, this is good.
to really come together around the main course. So you've built up the flavour profile up to a big, heavy, rich main, or it can even be, as long as it's got body to it. And then you finish off with,
Oh Dan, what kind of beans did you use?
what do you mean to use? Just kidney beans or?
As I said, it's 2 bean mix.
Oh yeah, but you're not allowed to
Yeah.
tell.
Oh,
I can't
good.
tell
Yeah.
you. Nah.
Guys, really good.
It is good. That's
Really
excellent.
good.
Yeah.
Nice and
You go down.
rich. Really rich, but in a good way.
If you go down the can aisle at IGA, very bottom shelf,
Yeah.
a tin of 2 bean chili beans.
Yeah.
So
Excellent. I
red,
cracked it
te-
open. I heated them up.
Technically it's dog food, but if we're paying
Oh.
Dog food
Oh,
has
no.
has
Stop it.
grains in it.
Yeah.
Jesus, no,
Actually-
really nice.
It's tinned. I added the cheese.
very important shit.
Throw the seasoning
And
and
I
the
poured it
onion,
in a little
and
plate.
yeah.
No,
It's fancy.
Do you think I could find a ripe avocado in Laney? No. Had to buy bloody dip.
Pre-made.
Avocado dip.
So again, yes, it needs to culminate into a good main dish that is sort of showing the flavours that you want to see. Before your time. Oh, hello.
Apparently, yeah. What kind of beans did you use?
Oh, finishing and questions like Gazoo on the Flintstone. What?
Mr. Magoo? No, that was no.
That's
I'm
a
thinking-
Gazoo.
Kazoo is an instrument, isn't it? Like that.
No,
No, that's a kazoo.
Oh, I'm
I know this because on one of my albums we actually have a kazoo being played through a wah pedal.
Look at the trouble. Look at the trouble you're
There's a,
causing,
Be-
Dirk.
there's a Beatles album that has Ringo playing the kazoo.
Features of
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There's a Beatle album.
First time the #1 album featured a kazoo.
Oh, wow. Okay. We might actually have to go back to our champagne glasses, by the way, for the last.
Oh yeah. That'll work.
Oh, okay.
Your-
Yeah.
So. It's like a little mouse over in the corner.
Yeah.
Did you still got those mouth
Yeah.
traps?
Have a slice of cheese with
Have
a
a
biscuit,
slice
not
of cheese,
a slice
not
of.
a slab of cheese. So you want to grab the last course for
Oh,
us?
yes.
Sorry. Hello.
Push this over here.
We'll revisit that course.
Yeah, I think we will definitely.
Yeah.
Because I know my wife is looking forward to me saying, "Oh, we'll have."
We can send it. You can take this home.
Just
right?
get takeaway, man.
No, there is that takeaway. What do you
Actually,
mean?
haven't seen any
Yeah,
comments from Roz. I don't
absolutely.
think she's watching us.
She's not watching us. She's just working.
Boring
She's
level.
still doing.
That's right.
When she comes in, we'll just feed her,
Yeah, we
Made
will.
us
and then
walk
she'll
up
be
there.
fine.
I'd like to think that was the case. I have a funny feeling she was going to do that. So, we're going to now talk about Botrytis Semillon. So, this is a wine that is high in sugar, high in acidity. Imagine, and probably the best way to do it is when you taste it or smell it, orange marmalade and rye bread.
And sticky.
Oh,
It is
wow.
sticky.
Yeah. So orange marmalade and rye bread are the
So
flavours of a
different.
botrytis-sized wine. If you're particularly, like, you might have other styles of dessert wines called ratafias, which is where you've actually added an alcohol to a lower, like a partly fermented wine, or you could have a VDN, which has been aged and defamed in demijohns, or you might even have a what's it called? It's essentially like basically you've pressed the grape juice and then added brandy to it, like ports and sherries and things like that. So this one particularly is a Botrytis Semillon from De Bortoli, which retails for a whole $17 a bottle. It's a half bottle.
It's a little bottle, yeah.
It is a half bottle. It's not unusual though because the botrytisization of the grapes. So Botrytis Senecara is actually a rot, and it is quite
It's a mole? Or?
it's a mole. It's yeah.
They call it the noble rot, don't
It
they?
is a rot. It's like a sort of a mold that goes through and is really bad. Like it is tragically terrible. If you get that through your vineyards, you can basically
Close up shop.
Start again.
done again. However, when you actually have those wines that you want to be botrytisized, and it usually involves what's called a mistral to get the botrytisation on it. You have a mistral, which is like a really heavy, foggy sort of. Usually a river nearby, and there's a fog comes off that river. That's called mistral, and its humidity
Sounds
is
like
the
a
high.
Scooby-Doo movie.
Yeah, a high humidity that actually gets the botrytis to go through the vineyard. If you allow that to do it, what it does is it actually shrivels the grapes, removes water from the grapes, particularly, intensifies the sugars, and gives flavour all of its own. And they actually look quite, rotted grapes are, well, not rotted grapes, but botrytis-sized grapes look really shriveled and ready to go. So when you press it off, you're not getting a great deal of juice. So you're paying.
So
So it's more
concentrated,
like
though, isn't it?
sultanas.
It's
like,
more like sultanas than anything else. But when you press the juice off that, you're getting very little juice off. So therefore, when you make a botrytis-sized wine, the cost is due to the fact you can't make a huge amount of it. But the high sugars are in it. Then you ferment that. The fermentation only goes for a fairly short period of time, but it gets it to generally 8 or 9% alcohol. This one's 11.5%.
It doesn't leave a lot of, there's not a lot of legs or anything on it. It's quite.
the viscosity is the first thing I really noticed.
And this
like,
is still considered a wine, sorry.
This is a wine, yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely
But is
a wine.
it like a fortified, what
No,
are we
there's no
considering
fortification to it. So fortification
We're just
involves
wine, it's a
alcohol being
wine.
added to it.
this? Right, it's just a wine.
This is straight out of wine.
A big, well, it's not, there's a lot more sugar left in
Yeah,
it.
there is a lot of sugar left in it, but to balance that sugar off, there's a fair bit of acidity left in there as well. They may even have to adjust the must by adding some tartaric acid into it, but generally this wine and
what's the
this
grams,
one,
what's the grams of sugar?
Oh my gosh, it's sweet.
probably between 50 to 80 grams.
I'm
sugar.
hoping the ginger will offset.
Not the
Sweetness.
100.
Yeah.
Or something citrus tart.
So
ginger.
once you've actually had, we've
Yeah,
gone
that's
from
what
a
ginger
big,
and
just
apple
a big red wine that is fruit forward, quite plush. You've had it with a really lovely meal. Now you want to finish the meal off by
You want this?
finishing the palate essentially.
That's a total contrast.
It is.
Yeah.
That.
Oh,
And this
yeah.
is where we talk about contrast, because we've built up to this, we've got the peak of the meal, and now we're going to contrast it radically. So at the end of it, you go, oh wow, that's
So
really,
it's like, yeah, everyone's having a good time. Go home.
no,
Yeah.
probably not going there.
No, okay.
So
But-
that, like
For me, things like lemon curd tarts work well with this.
lemon
Lemon
meringue.
meringue.
Yeah,
Lemon meringue works for this.
Stunning. You
High
need something
fruit.
with a bit of
Cheesecake.
bite, yeah.
I was gonna do
Cheesecake.
cheesecake.
Yeah,
Citrus
Oh, you
cheesecake.
didn't do cheesecake.
No,
I'm bad.
I thought about it. I thought, a whole cheesecake between the four of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
We probably
Doable.
would have done it.
Yeah.
Completely doable.
Yeah.
We can afford that. That's good.
You sound like a doubter.
You need to be more, more
That's
Believe in
crazy.
yourself, Dan.
It's
yeah.
crazy talk.
Belief. So we've decided to go. Well, what have we got down there, Dan?
An ice cream cake.
They're called ginger kisses. I don't know who Ginger
Yep.
is, but she kisses
No,
and that's
Ginger.
fine,
That's
Yeah.
right.
They're beautiful.
I'm hoping the Ginger will offset the sugar.
Ooh,
So the spice of the ginger, and there's a lot of sugar in the ginger snap, ginger kiss as well.
It's a little dry, but
Yeah, but once you whack this through it, have a taste. And again, this is
Oh, that's beautiful.
yeah, it's stunningly
Yeah.
good, isn't it? And remember, this is probably one of the most inexpensive Semillons you're going to get, or Botrytis wines you're going to get.
it's also the most expensive dinner party I'll have, you know.
Oh, true. But when you're looking at Botrytis wines, you've got the classic iconic Sauternes from France, from the Bordeaux region, or just south of the Bordeaux region. Barsacs, which are just south of Sauternes. You've got Noble One, which is probably Australia's iconic Botrytis Semillon. And then you've got the Dean. This is the Dean, de Bortley Dean Botrytis Semillon, which, as I said, is inexpensive, but I thought it would be a good way. If you got people that go, oh, I don't drink sweet wines, I don't like them, and
Me.
Laura is one of them.
I am one of them.
But you're like.
But I actually am quite enjoying this.
With the right meal, like it actually,
It
this
is like
goes
a
really
little,
well
it's
with
quite
it.
dry, so if you took a big bite out of it, it's like, well, hang on, that's too much.
I love this. Though.
The cream and the ginger
Yeah.
offsets the sweetness.
See, I reckon like ice cream, like a really nice ice cream with like a caramel like kind of topping would go really well with
Oh
it.
wow, you know you're right though.
Mm.
I might be converted.
In
Maybe.
wine in the right context is always excellent.
Mm.
When you put wine out of context, it's always terrible.
Yeah. If it's in a sack, it's on a.
Oh god.
It's on a.
It's hanging
off
It's on
clothesline.
hanging off clothesline.
Yes,
Yeah.
if we're playing Goon of Fortune, not so much.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. This wouldn't work with Good Fortune. It hurt your
It's
teeth.
more quantity at that point.
Yeah,
you
at
don't
that
really
point,
care
it's
about
more about
the
the alcohol
quality.
level.
But like that for like an end of the night, like
Yeah.
like sweetens up your tongue, like. And then I can imagine going on from this to like a nice port, like or something like that.
See,
Just
I would go
another
coffee
contrast.
after that.
That
Well,
brings us
coffee,
back to
ports, and cigars.
I would go.
Yeah,
I
well,
would go.
a port
coffee.
and a cigar, or a whiskey and a cigar,
Yeah.
like
Ooh, whiskey you go.
yeah,
Oh.
yeah, a whiskey,
Oh, here we go.
a whiskey
Come
and a cigar
on.
and a fireplace.
We've got cigars and a pork
We've
barrel
got
right
cigars, we've got port, we've got whiskey. We've got everything in this store, which is probably a very
It's
bad thing to
dangerous.
have right now. But no, and the thing is, with the dinner party, this is a great little finisher for. You've contrasted radically with your previous dish. You've come through with sweetness, and people associate sweetness with the end of a meal, particularly.
Well, desserts like
Desserts are always
generally the
good.
I
process
have a
how
question.
Yes.
What if
You
you,
don't
did?
need to put your hand up here. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, what if you did the kind of cheese platter route for the dessert?
So
Same thing,
if
or
you
more?
no, literally blue cheese and this
Perfect.
absolutely
Oh, like
stunning.
a blue cheese cream, like
Yeah, a
blue
blue-
cheese.
like
Like
Gorgonzola?
Castello,
Yeah,
yeah, like
blue cheese
Gorgonzola,
dip, like-
Castello, like
So
oh,
if you do
Castello.
Yeah.
Because you got blue cheese, which is really salty and quite
Yeah.
bitey, matching off to this. This is why if you finish off with the cheese, do we have this Cody left in this any cheese?
Yep.
So you can actually finish with cheese
Do you want some?
in comparison. Yeah.
Cheese will go well as well.
So cheese can be used at the start or the end of a.
But you would probably go a richer cheese, am I right? If you were to have it for dessert,
It would be good to have
like
would
you would have like a blue or like a brie or something really
The
heavy
more intense flavours, cheddars are good too.
for a dessert
Yeah.
platter. Yeah. Okay.
But even this, even the Gouda, it's got a real bite to it.
I might even look at this.
So you're
Maybe
going
coming
back
back
for more.
for more. Oh, that's a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
The creamy one would be a bit too creamy, but
Probably too good.
Right.
yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
So yeah, I'd probably go the creamy one, like
You reckon it's good?
for the mouthfeel. Like,
Why does also
oh,
in the mouth
no.
feel? That's
Seriously, that
technical.
Gouda is just stunning.
But I feel like
Now I'm torn. I've chopped Gouda.
because we went really light cheeses because the purpose of this was entrees.
Yep.
But if you're going to do a dessert cheese, you would normally go a heavier, wouldn't you?
Yeah, generally,
And
you
that-
want
would that-
something with intense flavours
Yeah.
to balance off to the intense flavours.
Yeah.
So you might notice there's no sweetness in this at all
Mm.
in any of these cheeses, but the savouriness and the oiliness matches off
Gouda
the
tastes
acidity in
completely
this.
different than what
yeah,
I've got.
I was just about to say that.
It's just
It's
yeah.
really weird.
It
It's
is
a good. It's completely different
Yep.
from what we do at the start.
absolutely different, and that's why you can have cheese at the start or the end.
Because now your palate's gone, oh, sugar. When you have the cheese, that's completely opposite
Yep.
sugar. And it's got more flavour.
Yep.
That is really good.
So basically, that's how to run a dinner party. It's you know, your mum's been doing it for decades. So now that you've learned about it,
How
And
good
it's
dinner
actually
party.
like all up is not as it's more cost effective than I thought it would be.
yeah.
Like
Look, we've done these wines, and essentially we're talking, and if we're gonna use true pricing or RRPs, not what we sell it for here, because we do sell it fairly inexpensively. You know, 28, 17, what's that? That's 30, 46.
Can't we just round it off? So
40, okay.
30, 20, 50,
that's good. That's
round
only
up to 20,
25, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, 25, and then that's
25 and another 20.
No, this is only like $16.
still I'm
So,
rounding up to
$100.
$10 points.
So you're looking at the 4 wines, and if you're going to have a dinner party, generally it's with 8 people, you probably get 2 of each.
Yeah.
Geez, I'll have to start charging per head then.
Per head.
I'm having a dinner party. Yeah, can you all throw in $50 for the wine?
Bring a plate.
Bring a plate.
But at the end of it, like seriously, you everyone walks away happy. They've all had a great night, and everyone enjoys themselves immensely. And I really think dinner parties are about conversations and you know, bringing ideas to the table, having a good chat about what's going on, and people just coming together and talking. And that's what
It's actually a really good thing to like, especially like in this kind of day and age. I think to have a dinner party.
Harry just said, loving it. Good show, boys. Loving it.
Thanks, Howie.
Yeah, I think to actually have like and put on a dinner party, like, and not just have like a drinking party where it's
Yeah.
just everyone sitting around talking trash,
Yeah.
but have to sit down like for lack of a better term, but a civilized conversation. Just sit around, just like, oh no, all the plates are quite nice, all the drinks are quite nice. I'll sit, wait my turn to have a talk, and then listen to this other person. Like,
Yeah, and you can enjoy
You
that.
have good conversation over good food and good wine.
And
essentially.
my parents have been down for the last week, basically.
How's that?
One of the things. Oh,
Good
thanks,
stuff.
thanks, Jen.
Thanks, guys.
So one of the things that they say is that they're amazed every time they come down, because you know, we sit down and around the table. We don't actually, truth be told, we normally, Ros and I will just sit down and watch it in front of the TV and watch something.
Oh, most people, let's
But-
be honest.
Every night this week we've sat around the table and we've talked, and the conversation has spanned so broadly, everything from, you know, COVID, Black Lives Matters to politics, the whole bit. And at no point, and we've got some really different opinions on a whole bunch of things. But at the end of it, none of us walked away going, "Oh, he's a really bad person."
Yeah.
You were able to express. You talked about what you thought. They either counted or not. And that's what you should do. You should be more open to ideas and suggestions. And honestly, at the end of the day, we're all drinking, we all live, we all breathe, we're all going to die sometime.
we're all sitting here having a meal, like,
Yeah.
like,
Stop saying you're having a meal, I'm going to cook yet.
yeah.
You take the left
Well,
over.
Yeah.
You're not having a meal.
No, I'm not having a meal,
Yeah.
I'm just having taste.
Yeah.
You might be your last meal.
Yeah, it could be. Exactly.
The last supper.
She should be coming in shortly.
Yeah, we'll see her in it.
But anyway,
On that note.
on that note, well, I just would like a little bit more of this.
So which one? I know we've done it differently.
Okay, we have
It's
done it
very,
differently.
very hard, but
It's a bit hard to vote on this one.
I know it's really hard to vote,
Yeah, they completed it, like,
Okay, so what would you... Okay, Laura, we're going to give you a vote.
Laura's
on
had
this one.
two
do you know what?
glasses of the sweet one. So
I'm gonna actually be really controversial here and say I really liked this last one because I've
in
never
the
had
right,
it
in the
before.
right context, that was
I
brilliant.
really liked
but
it.
that dandelion, like, I love dandelion.
Yeah.
I think they're brilliant, and that was a brilliant Shiraz.
I'm a dandelion lover myself, so yeah, that's really good Shiraz. But the bubbles,
Yeah,
Yeah, that
the bubbles
was
was
beautiful.
excellent. That was my second choice.
Wow, so if I don't go to the Villa Ferme Rosé, then
Yeah,
Nothing
we're not getting them.
Nothing's winning.
No,
No
okay. Nothing's
pressure.
winning.
No
Yeah.
pressure.
Look, in all honesty, the three you've just named off
Yeah.
have all been excellent because they're in context.
They're
They're in what they're meant to be and how they're meant to be.
Actually, I'm voting for the potatoes and butter.
Yeah.
I'll go with it.
I'm going the bean dip.
Bean dip for me.
Yeah.
Bean dip is good. Yeah.
I'm actually going to go with the dandelion only because, let's face it, Tsar is such a big personality. If I didn't go for it, he'd probably
You'd be
yell
killed.
something at me. Yeah.
It's like Pinocchio. I'm a real wine.
Yeah. Anyway,
Like, Roz doesn't kill you. You
yeah,
will.
I was going to say it was going to end badly.
Yeah.
But thank you all for tuning in.
You didn't introduce us in the first place,
I
right?
didn't. I'll introduce you now.
Mm.
This is Pat, the novice wine drinker, who has actually used more wine terms in this tasting than most of the people I've dealt with over the last 20 years. So he's obviously, I don't know if you can call him a novice anymore, honestly.
It's called staff training.
Staff training. Dan, who I've been with for 10 years now, and he's well and truly the
It's
most,
a happy marriage.
probably one of the most knowledgeable guys that I've worked with.
And humble.
The only one I'm entering into.
No,
obviously.
Dan can pick blends. We've done so much training together over the years. He is honestly one of the most knowledgeable people you're going to get in the world of wine.
I've
thank you.
learned from him.
I set you up.
I know people stuff.
Yeah, but the thing is though, that you go, oh, I don't know really that much, but then you'll actually say something that people go, really? Okay. And I'm just a know-it-all. So anyway, but drink well, drink like a savage. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.